Tanchjim Prism, one of the most pretty looking IEMs out there on the market today. I love the shell, I love the machinery done to this IEM. The design inside the plate is so intricate, it looks stunning. Tanchjim, you did a great job. Every IEM 600 and plus should look or aim to look this stunning. But we're an audio channel, so despite how amazing it looks, how does it sound? Let's find out. Hey friends, welcome back to another video on Giz Audio, and yes, I finally finished moving into my place. Well, kind of halfway finished moving into my place. This is my new room now, so we're gonna be filming a lot of videos from this location. Now, of course, the room is not done because I'm missing a lot of my RGB lighting, so that still needs to be installed later on. I just finished moving a lot of my stuff in last night, so bear with me. I still need to put out a video for you guys, so that's why I'm here filming. Now back to the Tanchjim Prism. This is again really beautiful. I love the design on this thing. From the cable to the plates to the shell, it's just screams premium. It screams $600, right? You spend a lot of money and you're getting this kind of really beautiful product. And it looks and feel like you spent that much money. And I think a lot of brands, if you're selling IEMs $600–700 up, give us really good build quality and give us really good design, because we're spending a lot of money and the product should also look like so. Like this one, Prism, really nicely done here. Now, jumping into the sound, I would say that this has a V shape, kind of like a mild V shape, if you will. It's not really a super V or anything like that. There's bass, there's a little bit of sub bass and a recessed mids, and a kind of like an energy in the upper mid-range and a little bit towards the treble area. Very telltale sign of a typical V-shaped IEM, but this leans towards the energetic side, not the bassy side. It leans a little bit forward, not super bright, but forward in the upper mid-range, if you will. So the balance is not really the most balanced thing. It's leaning towards the energetic side rather than the bass. Now, a lot of you guys who are bass heads, I would say that this is an IEM that's not going to deliver that kind of powerful bass to you, but what it is going to deliver is relatively well-controlled bass. So the bass here does feel nice, it's well-controlled, it doesn't color the mid-range in any way, which I like, but it doesn't have that kind of power or that kind of bass impact, the heavy-hitting impact that you expect out of a V-shaped IEM, if you will. Because when I listen to this, I do feel the bass, but I always feel like I want more, you know? I'm listening to a V-shaped IEM, I'm looking for a fun signature, so I'm always looking for more bass inside the Prism, if you will. Not that the bass quality is bad, it's not bad, it's just not enough power for my liking if I'm going to pick up a V-shaped IEM. But if you're the type of listener who like lighter bass in your IEM, then this might just be your cup of tea. I'm just saying that if you're a bass head or you like bass in general, this just feels like it's lacking that bit of power. Not that quality is bad, it just needs more power, in my personal opinion. Now, sub bass is a similar story. It's there, you feel it, but I'm always searching for more, you know? I want to feel a little more sub bass, or again, just more bass in general. Now on to the mid-range. The mid-range on this is recessed, as all V-shaped mid-range are, so it's not gonna come across the most forward or the most clear, if you will, because that's just not how V-shapes are tuned. They're tuned to be more fun, more bass, more treble. So mid-range is always gonna be like an issue clarity-wise in a V-shape, whether that being a big deal or a small deal depends on how well the V-shape is done. In this case, I feel like the recessedness of the mid-range, the clarity of it, is only hindered very slightly. So for me, this is one of the better done V-shape out there that doesn't sacrifice too much of the mid clarity or sacrifice too much of kind of like the natural aspect of vocals or mid-range instruments, if you will. It's still recessed, it's just not a big detriment here. So that's actually a good thing. Now, when it comes to timbre, this thing has a slight BA timbre. It's not anything that's pungent, it's not anything that's like outwardly off-putting in any way, just a slight BA timbre. You can hear it if you really pay attention, but it shouldn't bug anybody. Now let's talk about the upper mid-range, and this is where kind of like the imbalance comes into play, right? Like I said, the upper mid-range here has a bit more energy. I would say this is a part that really makes the bass or makes the low end feel smaller because it's slightly bit forward and slightly bit overpowering the low end, if you will. Just the high end in general in these IEMs comes across just more than the low end. And that's why you feel like there's less low end, because this part of the sound is just so dominating. Now, is that a bad thing? I would say in this case, I would like that to be toned down just a bit, because again, I want more bass. I want a little bit more balance. When you listen to these, it's so obvious that it's leaning towards the energetic direction. Now, for a lot of you who love V-shaped type of fun, but you also want a little bit of that vocal forwardness at the same time for some of the music that you listen to, then this just might be up your alley, because there's an abundance of V-shaped IEMs out there that focuses heavily on the bass side of things, right? But not a lot of them focus on like the pretty highs and the upper mid-range. So this just might be something that you could get into if you're into that kind of V-shape that leans energetic. On to the treble area. Now, treble extension, treble energy is there, is present. You do feel some micro details in the treble area, which is nice. It's not overly bright, so it doesn't come across fatiguing in any way. And when we're talking sibilances, there's barely any sibilance. I would say the only vocalist that has sibilance with these IEMs is Ariana Grande. And Ariana Grande is one of those artists, if you guys don't know this, kills a lot of IEM when it comes to sibilance. She is sibilance queen. Listen to one of her songs on any IEM that's even leaning slightly bit bright and your ears are gonna start bleeding. She is really tough to nail down correctly. There are very few IEMs that does that correct without being overly dark, you know what I mean? Of course, dark IEMs are not gonna show a lot of sibilances, but you don't want dark IEM. You want treble that's nice, natural, and sparkly while avoiding the sibilances. And it's really hard to nail down Ariana Grande when it comes to that. Her sibilances is just so tough. And Tanchjim Prism does a very good job at mitigating that for the most part. You still feel just a slightly bit of sibilance from her, but for the most part, it is relatively tame and tame enough that you can listen to her without any issue. And again, that's only a problem with Ariana Grande. A lot of other artists, normal artists out there, are not gonna have this issue at all. The Tanchjim Prism does sibilances very well, or I should say it tames it very well. Now let's get into the technical aspects, right? Detail, resolution, imaging, and soundstage. I don't know why I did the whole theatrical thing. I don't know what I'm feeling anymore. But yeah, Prism, when it comes to details, this is its weakest point in my personal opinion. Not that it has bad resolution, it doesn't. Here, bring up my scale, you guys can see. It lands right around the star field. Yeah, it has kind of like an average resolution, if you will. Maybe it's slightly bit ahead of Starfield if I'm really pushing it, but at the end of the day, it's still just kind of average. It's, you know, it's not bad resolution, again, but it's, you know, it's $600. So for $600, you want more than that. You know, you want a little bit more clarity, you want a little bit more instrument separation. Now the biggest problem with Tanchjim Prism is just the attack. It's just a little bit on the bluntest side. So nothing really comes across uber distinct, uber clean. It's just, I wouldn't say smear. Again, it has average resolution, so it's not like super smeared like a Blonde 03 or anything like that. But for $600, I would just want more distinction between each instrument, the vocalist, some more separation, something a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter, if you will, in delivery. So in that regard, yeah, resolution is the weakest point of the Prism. Imaging wise, I would say it has average imaging, and that's usually where 90% of IEM fall anyway, so that's not a detriment towards the Prism. It's kind of like, you know, par for the course. There's not a lot of IEMs that does imaging fantastic. A lot of them just does it average. And what do I mean by average? I mean left and right is good. It has a little bit of like grandeur, just slightly, not too much. Overall, you can tell for the most part where each instruments are coming from. It's not the most cleanest cut. It's not the most, I would say, pinpoint accuracy, but you know, there's some imaging there, and again, it's just average. Soundstage wise, for the Prism, it's not narrow, yeah, it's not just an inside your head experience. There's a little bit of wideness. It's not really tall or grand. You're not gonna get a lot of height with this, but you're gonna get a lot more width, if you will. And you know, it's not narrow, but it's not super wide either. I would say that it has just slightly bit outside of your head experience, just slightly, not too much. So again, with soundstage, it's also average. Now, to wrap everything up in a nice bow for you guys, as you guys can see, Tanchjim Prism is not a bad IEM. It's really not. It's just price very high. Yeah, it's just very expensive for an IEM that performs in kind of like this caliber, right? Tuning wise is really up to your preference. It is, again, a V shape after all, more leaning towards the energetic, so that might, you know, hit home for some people, and for some people it might not, so that's all preference. But the biggest downfall of this IEM is definitely the technical performance. I would love for it to have more detail. I don't really care much about the imaging and soundstage because a lot of IEM fall in that same region, so I'm not gonna fault it for that. But I do wish it has better technicality, especially if you compare it to like competitions like the Moondrop Variations that comes in even cheaper than this. The DA Audio Oracle as well, also cheaper than this. Dunu SA6. Those three IEMs are like very godly for a price, and they're all coming in cheaper than the Prism. So the Prism for me, even though I prefer the look of the Prism above every other IEM, it just looks so pretty. I really like the design of this. It really, in my opinion, doesn't compete too well in this kind of aggressive new $500 bracket here that we just recently seen in recent months. So yeah, Tanchjim Prism, although a good IEM, it just, man, the competition is so fierce. It's just unfortunate that it was released in today's market. If this was released a good year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, it might, you know, be like good contender, but it was released a little too late. It was released after Oracle, it was released after Variations. That's the biggest competition, really. The Variation is just a killer IEM. So yes, Tanchjim Prism, if you like the look of this and if the sound that I'm describing to you sounds like something that's right up your alley and you want to pick this up, I would say wait for there to be a sale. You know, Black Friday just passed and all that stuff, but like Sci-Fi have sales all the time, so I would look to pick this up when it's kind of on sale. Maybe, I don't know how much it goes on sale really, but you know, try to pick it up when it's on sale. 600 is a little bit on the pricey side. Again, not a bad IEM. It's just a bit pricey in today's market. All right, guys, that's it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon with more videos. Peace. Bye.